Are sent to trials, as me dad would say.
Let's turn on some relaxing music.
Okay.
We roll out a new way.
New wave,
way.
woo way.
All right, let me pull up the comments. Okay, there's one.
As me dad would say.
Okay, turn that back. All right, let's go to YouTube. So we're going to do a little something different today. We're doing this to share on social media to give people an idea of what we're doing on the Soulgy Network, one of the things that we're doing, and also to just try a new method. I don't think I've ever done a show, and ever thousands there been, where I've actually not started out on the screen. The person. All right, hang on.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be in the green room.
Oh, sorry.
This isn't the tune I was looking for. All right, enough of that. I don't know what happened.
That was
Technology.
good.
Yeah, it was good. Oh, it lasted. There you go. I want to get all the comments right. Oh, there it is. Okay. No, disappeared. All right, enough of that. I don't know what happened. Oh man, this is too much. Technology.
That was good.
So this is how we'll start the show. You know what? I'm going to turn this damn thing off. Hang on. All right. Yeah. I'll look at the comments once we get to the next phase of this.
Okay.
So, you're supposed to be in the green room. Be quiet.
Sorry.
So welcome everybody. This is a special broadcast of the SoulogyNetwork.com. And we do things by the creative, the intuitive, the imaginative, the courageous, and the intuitive. I didn't already say that. But that's one of these moments. This is a very powerful day. I can feel it. Yesterday was very powerful. I thought we were coming on an hour earlier. I didn't know there was a time change. No universal pun intended. But in the flow of it, something, inspired me. And it was really not just from when this show was coming on. It was actually part of just a vast myriad of streams of consciousnesses and higher awarenesses and triggers and activations for the last few hours. And I think a lot of people might be going through this type of thing. But what I wanted to get to was that I realized that in this moment, when everything started to make sense, that the best thing I could do was step in collaboration in a few other adjectives that I'll mention in a minute with my brother Joe Delaney. So let me just tell you what I'm thinking and where I'm coming from. So I've known Joe for a long time, like probably over 40 shows, 50 shows maybe, and for the last 4 or 5 years. And we've always had a great time. We've always had this evolution. We've always had this kind of I am soul, but we show our ass, and sometimes we make an ass of ourselves, and sometimes we're as inspiring as the greatest prophet, and as wise as the serpent, as they say. But so we've been through a lot. We've made this jump to SoulogyNetwork.com, and Dr. Joe has always been very supportive in his energy and his intentions, and I've watched a lot of people evolve, like I'm sure people have seen me evolve, and I've just been really impressed by the material that he put out on the network, these first 6 sessions, which he's going to review today, and I just wanted to recognize him for that, on a personal level, in appreciation from me and from Soulogy, and just really, humanity, because I believe part of the Soulogy platform is to put out stuff that has kind of fell between the cracks, that carries that thread that threads us all together. I think of Julie Dara Roberts with her cosmology. I think of a few other people, but Dr. Joe is onto something. So if you guys have time for the next hour, stick around. He's going to review the first 6 sessions. And if not, come back and check the replay out. And this is the type of material that you're going to see on SoulogyNetwork and many, many, many other things. We're just doing our best to build a small replica of the universe by adding frequencies to an ever expanding vibration. So anyway, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Joe. You can let yourself in now. And I wanted to recognize you publicly and personally. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in Houston next month. And just, once again, thank you. I know we joke around a lot. We've been through a lot. And I know I'm kind of like hard to get through on a personal level. I appreciate all the times that you've offered. And I do recognize and appreciate your your energy and your counsel, but so much of what we communicate to each other, at least in my mind, is not spoken. And so anyway, I wanted to make it clear before we jump into the 5D where it's all telepathic, and I lost my chance. So anyway,
No.
what do you got in store for us today, old man?
Is there any time left now after all that? What I'm going to do, Todd, is if you can tag me on my page, I'll be able to see comments that people maybe make.
Okay.
And the intention was to invite people on live, but nobody's taken the bait on that one. But we will do that in the future. I'll have what's called an open clinic, if you like. So if anybody's got any sort of things they want to chuck up into the comments, I'll try and explain them as I go through. And as you say, I mean, my whole thing is about spontaneity and just going with the flow, and I thank you, mate. We've known each other a long time, as you say. We're good friends, and we've shared a lot together. So my big thing is even though I look miserable, they call me Dr. Lightheart, because I think that's the way forward. And the message I'm carrying really
to each
is,
other, at least in my mind, is go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. The message I'm carrying really is that what we're looking for is not in here. This is basically the seat of stinking thinking. It's actually in here, and a light heart will carry us through this nonsense that's going on globally at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a PowerPoint presentation and talk through it, and I'll try and keep my eye on the comments at the same time when you tag me.
Yeah,
I know you're probably working on this in the background. Do you want me to come
Hang
over
on,
there
sure.
and give you a hand or something?
Wait. How many? Oh, wait. Hang on. I'm trying to set the sharing. Yeah, I'm getting there. Dude, this 3D stuff is just extremely difficult.
It's been, I mean, this is representative of the timeline shifting that's going on everywhere, really.
Well, you guys had a time. You guys must have had a time line shift, a clock shift, or whatever.
Yeah, we
Daylight
did
saving.
Sunday morning first thing. We went back. What did we go forward? Spring forward. So we went forward an hour.
Okay, here it is.
Okay.
I'm gonna tag you, or I should just share it to your page. Which one?
Yeah, whatever. Share it to my page. I'll go on my page and then we'll have a look and see what happens. And there we are. Let me see now.
I'm doing it. Just taking me a second.
It's all very exciting, this.
What is?
This spontaneity and extemporaneousness that we're going through at the moment.
I don't know, but my computer's acting really funny.
Okay. Tell you what I'll do then. What I'll do is a review of what I've done over the last 6 weeks, really, just to try and explain where I am with understanding of things and how I see the way forward, really. And it might sound complicated, but it's not. It's just complex, really. And so I'm going to try and break it down. Just let me just check my thing. Is everything coming through? Let's have a look.
I'm trying to send it to you, but it keeps going blank.
Don't worry. I'm going to put my PowerPoint presentation up now. So I'll share the screen.
Did it again.
There we are. And I'll just, let me see, is that going up? There we are. Yeah, that's fine. So hopefully everybody can see that clearly. The I Am approach to health and well-being, session 7. It was going to be an open clinic. but you know, things change. And I think what the I am approach is, the I am, to me, it represents the source. It's the creative energy, the beginning of creation, really. So this is all sorts of different names for this, but the I am, right, is the creator, the prime creator. And from there, then there's a great, you know, if we look at the physical side, the Big Bang, all these stars were formed, and star clusters, they eventually condensed then and formed all sorts of galaxies. And then from galaxies came solar systems. And the solar systems, then, this is our sun that's having a fine time at the moment. And there's more and more solar impulses hitting planet Earth. At the moment, there's planet Earth. I just did this before, Todd. I think, do you like it? It's good, isn't it? So there's Earth. So we're being affected from the galaxy and from prime source creator itself. There's an increase in the emanations, which is affecting the galaxies, which is affecting our solar system, which is affecting the Earth that we live on, and it's actually impacted upon our personal sort of vibrations and wavelengths and stuff. And this is a representative of the human body. And even people in medicine don't understand this, but the representation is in two intertwined snakes and this central shaft here. And the idea would be is, and I'll talk about the chakras in a second and the autonomic nervous system, but the idea is that if we can balance all these sort of intertwinings, if you like, or tanglings, if we can balance them out, what actually happens is when the yin and the yang and the masculine and the feminine side of these energies are working in harmony with one another, what happens then is a central energy, a third energy opens up, which then takes us into higher dimensions of consciousness and thinking. So that might sound very complicated, but I'll try and sort of explain it a bit more. So the I am approach stands for innate. Innate, I know some people understand this, but I'm trying to sort of simplify it and don't really assume anything. But innate means things that we're born with, things that come naturally to us, who we naturally are. Assets are our strengths, our skills, our attributes, and the talents that we come to Earth with, if you like. And management means is we don't know, but we've been so disorganized and unmanageable that how do we tap in? How do we reset and get back to our essential selves? And that's what this is about. The I am approach, it focuses on what's strong within the individual and not what's wrong with the individual. And I think in Western society, what we tend to do for various reasons and manipulative reasons as well, is we focus on what people are not naturally good at. And we try and get them to use all their energy to become good at something that they're not naturally inclined towards. And this almost like keeps us in a loop of tension and almost like Groundhog Day, because the harder we try, the more difficult it becomes. You know, and I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm just trying to bring what I see as the truth now. It's a deliberately developmental, mindfulness-based stress re-education program. And this, you know, it's called the DDMBSR. And what it's about really is it's helping people to understand how stressed they are, how for various reasons we've been conditioned and programmed into being fearful all the time, and how basically our lives, generally speaking, have been one of on the defensive. It's not been creative, it's always been defensive. And if there has been any creation, it's always been to try and protect ourselves, really. So most of us are in a state of hypervigilance. We're on our toes all the time, we're alerted, you know, and we're just on the lookout for danger all the time. And the whole thing about the I am approach is through breathing techniques and the use of positive emotion, we can reset and basically reconnect to our essential soul selves. And I'm saying words here that might be considered religious, but I'm not a religious person in the slightest, and more spiritually inclined. And when I say spiritually, I don't mean religious. As I say, spirituality to me means all to do with energy. And I'm a consultant in what's called subtle energy medicine. And so it's to help people to reconnect with their essential source energy and to be guided by that. So that's what we'll look at. And
What's
it's
that
basically
called?
a fusion.
What's that called? Subtle?
Subtle, yeah, subtle. Just means refined, yeah. And there's 12 dimensions, Todd. 12 dimensions of energy, right? And source energy is the highest frequency, and then it sort of slows down as we come into materialization then. So we're at the sort of most dense, and what we're doing now is we're being reintroduced to more subtle energy. Todd's listening, I think, to somebody there, but essentially it's about time and energy management, because in the beginning there was no time. And I think people say that that source energy, it's sending out a wavelength. Well, I actually don't see it like that. I see it as a primary emanation, and I think it's when the soul is created, that's when we get the duality that's formed, and then when we get time and space. But anyway, I digress. It's holistic, and that means it's a 4-quadrant approach, which I'll show you in a second. And it considers 4 different quadrants that make up a whole human being. It's wholesome, and that means there's a nutritional element to this as well. It's wholehearted, because most people I talk to are just leading a half-hearted life, where they're trying their best, they're dragging themselves on and driving themselves forward, they're exhausted, they're tired, they're fed up, and they just can't see the point, and that's the point I got to. The reason I'm here today is that I got to that point. I tried for years to do the right thing. I was exhausted. I took to drinking and all sorts of different things. I got to that. And then in the end, I tried to do myself in, because I was hurting myself and I was hurting so many people. And it was in the process of going halfway to the other world, if you like, that I sort of had an enlightening moment, and basically saw the whole purpose of my life. So that's what I've been doing now for over 35 years, and coming closer actually to about 40 years. So it's wholehearted, it's enthusiastic, it's vital, and it's a whole person approach, really. So this is full spectrum health, taken into the different 4 quadrants that I'll talk about now. And it's just basically this: is most people are moving quickly down to becoming lots of people say we're coping, we're getting on with it, but as they carry on doing the same old thing and nothing changes, they start to struggle. Then as the struggle gets worse and they become more entangled in this mess, if you like, this matrical mess, then they start to become unwell, and then they hit down here what's called the rock bottom. And that's when they've tried thinking everything, they're all thunked out, and they just don't know what to do. And this is the best place to be in the whole world if you understand. And if you don't understand, it's the worst place to be. And so in this moment, I help people to understand what a rock bottom is, and how they can dig deeper within themselves to find the power, the energy, and the courage to start making their way back up and experiencing and understanding as they go back to whole health. So that's my job, really, is through sharing my own experience, my strength and my hope with each other, that we can all get through this together. Now, the whole point about it is I can't suggest, right, what people can do, other than the answer that they're looking for lies within them. So my job is just to help them to reconnect back to their own inner guru, if you like, their inner resourcefulness, and to guide them on how to get a better connection to what they need to know. Some people call it the still small voice. So in order to hear the still small voice, we've basically got to stop. We've got to stop. We've got to surrender. We've got to relax. And then we've got to ask, is there anybody in there? Typical for tonight is there anybody in there? And when I was shown how to do this, the next morning, my life had changed completely, because I surrendered. And I'm not surrendering to something outside of myself. I'm actually surrendering to a deeper part of myself, which is my soul self, really. That's how I explain it and how I understand it. So it's about 4 quadrants or 4 intelligences. There's the physical bit. Now, when you go to the ordinary doctor or your general practitioner, we normally go to, and they just look at the physical side of things. So they'll be looking at all sorts of blood test results and asking where your pain is and stuff like that, and they will prescribe medications, because that's what they're trained in, to actually treat the symptoms. They're not root causes. It's basically symptom treatment. And then so for more enlightened doctors, they might talk about, and how do you really feel about things, you know? So this is where counseling comes in and stuff like that, really, because there's no doubt about it in the way that I see it, and different people may have different opinions, and that's fine. But I feel that the emotions, right, are generated mostly below the level of our consciousness. And then those emotions actually drive the way that we think as well. So emotions, when we understand them and we can start to release any trapped emotions, we can start to get more and more courage, which changes our mind from within. But this is the most important bit, the bit that's left out most of the time. And this is the spiritual dimension. It's something invisible. It's something that feels like there's a much bigger purpose to our lives. And most of us, well, I'll talk about me. I'd completely forgotten about this. I was disconnected from my spiritual soul self. And therefore, I was only leading a half a life, really. And that's why I was de-energized all the time, had no enthusiasm for anything at all, just trying to make enough money to keep going. So on the typical treadmill of, and you know, and the other thing is I was brought up and people told me how to be successful. And I followed those people and I followed their ideas, and it didn't work for me. And I think I'm glad that I got into the situation that I got in, because what actually happened was I realized that I was nothing more than a programmed automaton, you know, and I came to that point and I realized that I'd hardly ever made my own mind up about anything, because every time I got into a situation or some sort of environment that I'd been in before, just automatic patterns kicked off. And I just chose the same thing that I always chose. And once I started to realize this, I was able to let go of those programs and those conditionings and start to make my own mind up. But where did I get the information from? I got it from within my heart of hearts, you know. I don't know whether that's making any sense, but I've never felt more whole. I've never felt more connected. I've never felt more vital. You know, I've never felt more enthusiastic, and I've never felt that there's a purpose to my life as well, more strongly than I do now. And so basically, you know, nothing is, everything's moving. So really the human being, it's not a noun. It's something that's actually changing from one moment to the next. So it's a dynamic process. And really this is a spiral. It's not a circle, because I think I was on a treadmill where I was just going round in the same old circle over and over. There was no growth. There was just more and more desperation. And in that desperation, I became more and more de-energized, more and more tense, more and more unhappy. And I found that if I drank as much as I could of alcohol, it temporarily relieved me and brought in some relaxation. So that was the gift of alcohol, that it actually brought some relaxation. And also it released a whole load of energy that was compressed within me, you know. And I think that that's what addiction is. All addictions, as far as I'm concerned, are emotionally based, and they're based upon conditioning, program, and repression. So it's about oppression, suppression, repression. And the only answer to become free is to express. But how we express, right, is important, because with drink and drugs and this, and I'm only talking about my experience, all the trapped energy would come out in a very destructive way, you know. And then when I looked around the next morning and came around and saw the destruction, I'd suck it all back in with guilt and remorse and everything else. So I was on that sort of cycle of the emotional merry-go-round, really. And so there is obviously a way to express this compressed energy, and that's, to me, that's, we get in touch with our soul's purpose, and we allow the soul to direct us and to navigate us from one day to the next, really. And that's what I'm trying to do. Do I make cock-ups all the time? But, you know, I let myself off the hook, because, as I was saying to Todd the other day, right, every single day, my intention is to do the best that I can, to be helpful, to be healthy. And that's what I do. You know, I do the best that I can every day. And who judges that? Me. I decide whether I'm doing well or not, you know, and that's it. So we follow then. Let me just move this thing here a second. So we come down from, so rather than being guided by external influences, we start to be guided by our innate intelligence, a deeper part of us, our higher selves, call it what you like. To me, it's a deeper self, which is paradoxically a higher and more expanded self. And so that's the sort of voice that I'm listening to all the time from deep within. It almost like emerges now. So rather than coming from my head down, right, it's actually coming up, and it's this emergence of inspiration that changes the way that I think. And so I follow the prompts from my spiritual self, and then that will prompt, it will cause the energy. So the energy from this dimension will cause an emotional change here. The feelings then will influence the way that I'm thinking, and then the way that I'm thinking will manifest in the physical dimension. So it's completely the opposite way around. It's almost like a reversal of some sort of obstruction that took place a long time ago. And I'll explain that as we go along. And I think the great shift in consciousness that's coming through now is actually helping us to see. It's some people call it the truth vibration. David Icke does, for example. But as I say, I don't think it's a vibration. I think it's an emanation, but, you know, just words really. And so by all accounts, and I followed it for years, something called Keylontic science, you know, and to me, it makes more sense than anything else. And this, believe it or not, is a representation of source and creative energy itself. And you can see here, and sometimes when people look at these things, it's almost like a light language in itself. It's almost like light code. And if you can use this to meditate on, sometimes that has an impact on releasing people and stuff. But you can see here, this fellow here in the middle, this is the physical human. But if you look outside of that, you can see all sorts of different sort of strands of energy. And here, and I'll show you a bit more as we go on, but there's almost like, this is like a 12-petaled lotus, you know, and from here, and when we get up here, we come into what's called the God worlds, you know, and the more that we can surrender at the core, the more that the correct information will start to pour into us. But what happens is, as the new information comes in, and this is the difficulty, it will sort of be obstructed by any ego-driven concepts and constructs. And that's why sometimes as we open more and more, we can feel emotionally disturbed. And all it is really is that the new energy, which is really the old energy, is trying to flush out anything that's not in alignment with it. And that's why sometimes after a meditation, you can feel worse, but it's a positive sign if you can keep surrendered, keep breathing in a certain way, and just allow all the old stuff to be flushed out. And I think that we've just come through a really big, I'll say it now, shit shifting show. You know, there was like a corridor of unblocking and, you know, dino rodding that's just taken place. And I think more and more people may feel that they feel more energized, and they may even feel also that new abilities are almost coming into their sort of their bodies and their abilities and stuff like that. So there we are. That's source code as far as I'm concerned, and that's the I am itself. You know, and that's why I've called this the I am approach, because it's based on this emanation from here. And also here as well is, I believe, you know, that this is basically the structure of the soul. It's called the Kathara, you know, grid. It's a 12 grid or 12 dimension structure, you know, but there are another 3 dimensions outside of here that actually feed the energy into this here. And this is representative of the human body. You know, it's almost like it's a 12 sphere system, and it's sort of representative of the new but age-old Kabbalah, because recently the Kabbalah has been reconnected to 2 spheres that were obstructed for various reasons. But that information's for another show. So we've been put online now, and we've got this 12 spheres are all now being flushed with a positive and cleansing energy. And as the energy comes into each of these 12 chakras, let's call them, there's a central pillar of chakras here. As it comes in, we may feel pain and discomfort in certain areas of our body. And this is the bottom half. This is the root chakra. This is the sacral chakra. And this is where lots and lots of stuff's going on here at the moment in this creative energy bit. You know, and this is to do with the this is to do with the adrenal glands. This is to do with this the sex glands, and also the bladder as well, and all sorts of things there. So sometimes you can get a clue wherever your pain is, wherever the discomfort is, it's generally associated with a lesson or some sort of principle that needs to be looked at regarding these. Now, for example, problems in the root chakra, because there's legs coming down here. If you're afraid to go forward, then the energy, the new energy, will be putting you into situations where you'll be forced to stand up for yourself, you know. And there's other situations as well, as if you're imbalanced and you felt physically strong, then you'll be almost like forced to start taking a step backwards as well. And this is part of the universal balancing principle. And how do we balance it? We balance it by getting our heads out of the way and surrendering and basically saying to our higher selves or our deeper selves, will you please show me what to do, one step at a time, one breath at a time. So that's what that's representative of, the human body itself. And, you know, if you look at Da Vinci's sort of picture of the man, you'll see that there's all sorts of perfect proportions, and it's all really to do with the sacred geometry of what it is to be a human being in perfect balance. But I've found that in myself and in lots of other people is not many people are actually in perfect balance. So that's that really. And where it led me to there is, it led me to, I was a senior biomedical scientist for many years, and all I could understand was the biomedical side of things. And by getting ill, it sort of introduced me to another side and another way of looking at things, you know. And I was introduced to Eastern medicine. Strangely enough, though, I'd practiced martial arts since I was a kid. And the reason I practiced martial arts was so I could toughen myself up, you know. And I got quite good at it. But when it came to any conflict, right, my emotional self just made me run away, you see. So it didn't do anything for me, really, because the problem wasn't physical. The problem wasn't emotional. The problem was actually spiritual. And I didn't know that. But anyway, most people on the Soulology Network will understand and will know what the chakras are. And as I say, they're whirling vortices of energy. And if they're misaligned, what happens is we become out of sync with the primal energy, the primal balanced truth, you know. So our job really is to let go, to feel where the disturbance is, and to take action to try and realign the energy that pours through these chakras. But what I also found out was that from a neuroscientific point of view, that these also represent the 7 major endocrine glands. And so what we have here is we have the adrenal glands, the sex glands here, the pancreas and the solar plexus. And that's all to do with keeping hold of energy, storing down energy, and that's to do with personal power. Now here we have the heart, which is to do with your immune system and the thymus. And most people, there's a triangle here that goes like this into lower heart. And most people come to lower heart and they keep cycling around in the same old circle, because this point here, it represents we need to let go here of what we've previously thought. And then what actually happens is there's almost like, and Todd talked about this the other night, there's a vesica Pisces. It's almost like a corridor opens up. But most people, this is the rock bottom here. And I believe it's symbolic of the crucifixion as well, that we all get to a point where we feel crucified. Now, we can take drink, we can take drugs, we can listen to external advice, but all that will do for us is keep sending us round in a circle. What I got to was, at the point of me doing myself in, it's almost like I was sort of, well, a miracle happened, to be honest. And I got into a state of peace that passeth all understanding. And at that point, I realized what it was all about. And strangely enough, it's almost like I was vacuumed up into what's called the higher heart. And that to me is a spiritual awakening. It's when I started to realize that there was a much higher or a much deeper purpose to my life. You know, and I'm not a religious person. I've actually jettisoned all my religious beliefs, but I just go with what I feel these days, really. And it's sort of catapulted me into understanding quantum consciousness and quantum entanglement. So it's all become very, very physics to me. And because I'm a scientist at heart, that sort of quantum physics approach, it's more appealing to me and more attractive to me. So as we go on, that's only the start of the spiritual awakening. I think what happens then is we get sort of almost guided, right, to go back hand in hand with the spirit of the universe to start plugging up all the leaks and all the mistakes that we've made, you know. And I say mistakes just as, you know, sin, you know, means to make a mistake or to miss the mark. And I think we gently get guided back and shown the bits that we need to plug up by taking certain actions. And every time we take an action, right, that's previously a fear-based or pride-based action, every time we put it right, more energy comes into our system, we get more courage, we get less physical pain, and then we can go forward then on the 12 steps to heaven, you know. And so we come here now to the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland in the throat is so important because this is either the mechanism of repression or it's the mechanism of expression. And this is where, when we've held our thoughts back at our comments, or we've swallowed down all the truth that we wanted to tell, we're in a position now where, as we become more empowered, we can't help but start to speak the truth about what's gone on, you know. And I think it's important to understand that we've allowed this to all these things to happen to us. Nobody's done this to us without our permission. So it's really like soul's progress. So it's to speak our truth, you know, forcefully, but not in a destructive way. Because if we do anything destructively, it'll almost like rebound on us very quickly. And it's almost like becoming instant karma now. And so then we move up then to the brow chakra and the pituitary gland, and also the pineal gland. And once we've reached the pineal gland and we've balanced all these chakras, what actually happens is the crown of our head, it turns over from the crown of thorns to the crown of crowns. And that's like the reversal of all these sort of negative energies, for want of a better word. And I don't know whether this is making sense, but these are the chakras. Let me just move this here so we can see the chakras. And I think that these are beautiful, these. When I see this, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And what that means is this is the base chakra. Now, the base chakra isn't any less important than the crown chakra. They're all equally important, you know. And so the red, this bit here is all to do with, again, standing on your own 2 feet. And it's actually where Mother Earth's energies actually come up, you know. And then we get into the creative energy. So in a physical sense, this is about procreation, and it's all about furthering the race, the human race. So it's about survival of the species, basically. But as we then move up, then this is about working in society and working with groups into the heart. So as I say, we can either work off lower heart, or if you like, more base energies, or we can allow ourselves to be taken up into higher heart and spiritual awakening. Then we express ourselves here. We start to see things in a much more clear and balanced way, in a more expanded way. And we start, because of that, we start to become more compassionate. And then from there, then we almost like resynchronize ourselves with the cosmos. And so that's basically how I see it. And I think this is the ascent of man and woman. But I honestly don't feel that we ascend anywhere, really. I just think that we drop off all the negative habits, and the new habits, or the more truthful habits, start to take their place. So let me just go to the next one. And that's, to me, what it's about. I got a clear picture when I was doing this, that it's like energy, you know. And this is you know, this is a graphic equalizer, and so I've just changed it to put the colors of the chakras in. And I think as we come in as a soul, we have a soul ego contract. And so the ego is implanted with this sort of energetic structure here. And our job then is, the soul informs the ego, and then the ego takes the actions then to rebalance and realign these chakras here. And I think that we set ourselves up that before we come here in the world of spirit. And I think that we choose our own curriculum, you know, and I think that's already determined then. So when we come in, we're born with this predetermined curriculum, but the free will choice we have is more or less, do you want tea or coffee? I think that's about the, you know. You're going to say something, Todd?
So far, what you've gone through, this is all, just so for anyone that came in later, you're into the first 6 sessions of this course, of this series, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're going through.
Yeah.
Like right now, how far would you say you've gone through the first 6 in this summary?
Um, I don't know. I can't remember what's coming up next. You mean
Well,
from a time-wise point of view?
no. I meant from just, to your recollection. Like, I'm just trying to get an idea of how much you've covered so far, because you're doing this in summary.
Yeah, it's a summary. It's what I'm trying to do is also introduce to people who've not seen this before,
Right,
right? Maybe taking them outside of the human, just to explain that there's much more going on in the invisible realms than we
right.
can possibly realize. And if they're sort of at the point where they're ready to hear it, it might sort of help them to sort of open up to different ideas, really.
And I'm sure this type of teaching has really gained some traction in the conventional educational world.
Not in the slightest, no. And the way I do that in the educational medical world, I bring in things like yoga. And
Uh,
because lots of people in the medical world now, they're so stressed that they go into yoga for stress management, you see. So
right.
they can go, oh, they mention that in yoga. They talk about breathing in yoga, and these are people who've got medical degrees, and I'm not knocking them, Todd, because most people are totally unaware of what's going on, like I was. And so what I'm trying to do now is bring some neuroscience into this
Right.
so that sort of brings them into it.
There are some people with some questions, or would you rather wait till the end? They're not, yeah, they're not all kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah. Chuck them in and let's see how we get on.
Do you want to do it now?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay, well, this one came on early. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Um, so this is probably a carryover from an earlier video. Question about the 6 breaths per minute breathing. I have figured out what I think is an inhale for a count of 5 seconds can vary from 3 to 7. What's a good way to get in the rhythm?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out. Hands on heart, both hands on heart area. Imagine that you're actually breathing in and out the warmth of your hand, or a feeling of care and comfort and calm from your hand. So it just goes in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if that's too slow, you can go in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. Because
Hmm.
most people breathe at rest about 12 to 15 breaths per minute. So it's got to be relaxed. But the more that you practice it, the more that your brain waves and your neural networks will start to develop new habits. Does that
Here's
make
a
sense?
Yeah, that's a great answer. Wendy Hunt, she was asking a question, but I guess it'll be a variation of her question. Hers is kind of rhetorical. Why isn't all this taught in ordinary schools so children can grow up with some real knowledge at long last? Is there do you see anything out there
Yeah.
in that realm where there is any of this kind of thing, or any type of more real education being given to children?
Yeah. It's happening so much. More and more people are waking up to almost realize that we've been conditioned and programmed in the wrong information in the standard curriculum model. I'm working with people now who are encouraging home education now. So there are those sort of networks, home education networks. This is in the UK, that are starting up, but also with things like Lisa Marie's Earth Conquers Earth School,
Uh-huh.
where the children are coming along and they're basically treated as individuals. And what I like about it is that the children are actually teaching the adults, right, how to go forward, because
Yeah.
they're almost like deconditioned when they come in. They're almost like a blank slate, but they have their skills and their attributes, and they're already geniuses, really. So what we're trying to hope for is that their internal I am will guide them, and the job of the parents basically is just to provide the food and water, and the environment, so that the seed grows properly. And
Right.
like all flowers, Todd, different seeds produce different flowers, right?
Right.
So it's feeling in, really. It's just the old Tibetan techniques, really, is that pay all attention and see which way the child's growing, because the child will naturally grow in its own strengths.
Yeah. Run it, move to its own rhythms and not try to force any rhythms on them. Here's some from the Facebook side. This isn't a question, but it's a statement that Sarah Carter made. And Sarah, I got your email today, and I thank you for it, and I'm going to write back to you soon. But it brought something to mind, because I've heard you talk about this in your sessions. All right, at some point. And she says, if you don't feel good, go out in the sun and feel the magnificence. The sun is a magic portal that connects us to our true self. I've heard you go through your discourses, and I've heard you at times connect to that. Can you talk about that a little bit? The sun's role in this invisibility that you're speaking of, that you're bringing to light.
Yeah, I think that the sun, is the sun in our solar system anyway, is almost like a focus. It's like a magnifying glass, really, for the energies of source creation to come through. And it's the sun is the basis of electromagnetic energy. It's part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And what actually happens is, as the solar impulses come from the sun, they're very high frequency. It's a bit like taking a big long piece of rope and flicking it like that. Initially, where your hand is, that's a very short sort of wavelength, but high energy. But as it goes along, it's the same wave, but the wavelength's getting longer. Does that make sense? Yeah. And every time at different wavelengths, there's actually different frequencies at different wavelengths, and each of those impacts in a different way upon the human psyche. It's quite hard to explain this, Todd, but I mean, it goes down from gamma rays to X-rays to ultraviolet rays. Then it comes into the visible light spectrum, and then from there, then it goes into infrared, and then it goes into radio waves. So it's the same wave, but at different frequencies. Do you see? It's hard to explain, because
that's amazing. That's amazing, because you do have that blend of medical and scientific. It's interesting. You wouldn't think you'd hear a doctor, medical, side of it, talking about waves. That's pretty cool. Nathalie Carden has a question. I guess it could be expanded too. She says, based on the diagrams you had up there. So what happens when you only have half your thyroid gland? Or I guess we could expand the question, where you might be missing a physical property of that which you were putting up, as far as the energy centers and all that.
Yeah, I think that most of the work gets done in the invisible centers. And, the human body itself, the physical one, is the organ, really, and the expression of those energies. So what I'm hoping for is, and we've talked about this before, is that there will be something called spiritual bioregenesis, right? And what that really means is that the frequencies can still emanate without the need for the organ underneath. So this is what I see in my mind, is that the physical body is actually changing, right? And if we can surrender now that the actual frequency of the human physical body is changing and it's moving up in vibration. So just to clarify the point, right? I think that the soul itself, if it needs it, it will find some way to actually recalibrate these areas. It's hard to explain that one, really, but
that makes sense to me, and I've heard that before. Where you have like a functioning, look at Franco, he had 5 failing, like less than 25%, like even with kidneys, if you go below, 30 or 26 or something, you're on dialysis. So he obviously was operating for 3 or 4 years, off of those things that you were showing that didn't have, let's say, the physicality or the functionality, or both. There's a couple of interesting.
Let me just say this, Todd, just to clarify that last question. My hope is, and I think we're some way from there, but I think that if you're in contact with source energy, right, and if it's if it's in line with your soul's purpose, I think there's almost a possibility of regenerating organs that have been sort of either whipped away or diseased, But that's, we've talked about this before, because I honestly feel that with the human being, with its lifespan of about 84 now, I think that it can go on for a lot longer, because our cells are always regenerating. And that's a hope I have for the future, really.
Yeah. So here's another interesting comment from our sister Angie Parker, who, for those of you who don't know, lives in a van, uh, 60-ish, lives in a van, has been in this lifestyle for quite some time, and lives up in the mountains and the parks and the beaches in Oregon, Washington State area. So I wanted to read this and ask you if this is one way of saying what you're describing, or if there's a relation somehow in her description. She says, so far this is occurring by me, for me, naturally living by nature, choosing more and more aligned emotionally high heart choices and not ignoring what comes up emotionally, showing me my subconscious feelings, tuning in to what the emotion is, where pain shows up. This is easier for me than a scripted modality. My soul has been aligning by sun gazing. So, would you say that what you're describing, even though it has some formulation and everything, due to the way that you've created it, so it could be communicated, but really, I don't know, is there an element of this kind of like this customized script that the person is kind of tapping into through this process that you have, where
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
being taken into consideration?
What I'm trying to do is bring the spiritual in, which is invisible, and we can talk about morphic resonances and morphogenetic fields and stuff like that. But the solution is for the individual to tap into their own essential self. That's the only formula, is to reconnect with their heart of hearts and ask the question, will you please guide me one step at a time, one day at a time, please, back to whole health, if it be your will. That's what I do, Todd. I hand over every morning. I hand over my will, my choice, my body, and everything over to this higher or deeper aspect of myself, and my whole life's been transformed by it. So the only formula is, I don't know what you need to do other than reconnect with your own innate intelligence and allow that to guide you. You see, Todd, people have asked me, what shall I do? In the beginning, when I didn't realize, I would say to them, oh, you need to change your diet and you need to do this, and it didn't work for them. So who would they put the responsibility on? They put it on me. This is all about personal responsibility. It's about, this is my view, it's about stop looking outside for answers. Don't disregard what's being said, because it might be a little clue that sends a bell off. But don't look outside for answers, because in essence, what you're looking for is within you. So this is really about people turning the other way around, and rather than expecting, to start inspecting. I don't know whether that makes sense, but what you're looking for is already contained within you.
Mm.
And so Angie's saying that she's naturally going with stuff. And what actually happens is, in my mind, is that the higher power, the flushing, the truth vibration, the cleansing energy, it gets underneath the unconscious and starts to push the unconscious up. And that's what a negative feeling is, or a disturbance. It's almost like all the shit is coming into the light of day. So shit's a technical expression for shit, right? All the crap is being brought up to the surface
Literally
so
and
that it can be
figuratively.
looked at. And in the witnessing of it and the looking at it, we can see where we've been sort of misaligned from the past.
Yeah. Or do you have many we should get back to the instruction, to the presentation. But I
Yeah.
was going to ask you, do you have many colleagues that kind of fall in line with this type of thing on their own or through discovering your stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this is my stuff. It's just the way I've put it together. It's become my
Right.
stuff, But
Well, I mean,
but this
coming
is,
across it and seeing it explained in a way
yeah,
they might
yeah.
not have thought of, or like reading a book where you get a new idea. But are there people that are, advocating it or at least open
Yeah.
to it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, because it comes from sort of mindfulness meditation and leaving logic behind, and trusting intuition. And intuition's a feeling. It's driven by a deeper energy and a more subtle energy. So we have to get back in contact with our bodies and try and listen to the signals that our body's trying to send us. But most people are so headbound and distracted that they've disconnected from their bodies. And so if their body causes them any trouble, they'll either take a drink or a drug or a medication to dumb down the feelings, when our feelings are screaming out, will you please stop and pay attention to me? you know. And so yeah, and I'm going to a thing tomorrow night in our local community where somebody's invited me along, and I've invited my old students along to see and so we're all trying to form groups now. So this is happening at a local level, and I think this is what's got to happen, is local communities are starting to light up together, you know. And the important thing is that this is about collective individuality. Each soul has got a specific frequency or key, right? And they need to be confident enough to express them. And it's in the expression of their skills and attributes and abilities. That's what's going to click into a bigger group purpose. Christ, I feel like the preacher now.
Yeah.
Shall I put this back up again? Or?
Yeah, put it back up. And just remember, everybody, Dr. Joe is going to be having some quite a bit of stage time at the Soulogy Fest. So for those of you who can make it in the physical, or if you can make it on the virtual online, you can find those tickets at SoulogyFest.com. We will be filming everything, and he's going to be doing presentations, and I believe probably some type of workshop, atmosphere, or at least, offering. And then I think as well, individual things as well with people one-on-one. So just a little reminder, a little plug.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really looking forward to it. We'll play that by ear as well. So that's about. So what happens is the energy of the cosmos, if you like, with a K, it pours into our chakras, and then depending on the intelligence, each particular chakra will be activated at a different time, and then it flows through what's called the Meridian systems. And
are you going to put it back up? Are you going to put up the?
Is it not up? Sorry,
no, it's not up. Yeah, you have to share screen.
Oh, share the screen. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's all right, mate. Don't worry. I'm used to it.
With me around, or just
absolutely. I've had to learn all this spontaneity working with you.
Nathalie's asking where you base. You're in Liverpool, right?
No, I'm a place called the Wirral, which is the other side of the river, and it's much posher than Liverpool.
Okay.
Yeah, Merseyside it's called, yeah.
Merseyside.
Yeah, it's by Chester. Chester's a posh place. So this is the energy of the cosmos then, and the soul. So the soul will actually send information through the chakras, and the soul's deciding which chakra to work on, not our ego. And that's why it's sometimes difficult. If you go to an external coach, they might get you to work on one part of the body, when in actual fact, it's a completely different part of the body that needs working on. We almost have to disentangle the stuff in the way it was laid down, and only the soul knows which one to work on first. So that's why you sort of have to go in. You have to make a request and say to the soul, give us a clue what you want me to work on here today.
Where did you get this? Where did you get this with the 12 meridians? This is amazing.
Oh, Todd, I've had this. I've had this 12 thing for a long, long time now.
Did you create this?
This I didn't create this. I got this off the internet, so it just fits in with my understanding.
Yeah, it's just I never really viewed like meridians like that, but it makes a lot of sense, especially that one that looks like it's the two lines that parallel the spine. They look like they're blue. I don't know. What are they labeled? Bladder?
Okay. Well, no, they'll be the yin and the yang, really. So they're the counterparts. So one's masculine, one's feminine, right? And so what I've been shown is that the 12 spheres of consciousness. So that's what we're talking about all the time. The 12 spheres of the soul are sending out these emanations all the time. They come through the chakras. The chakra distributes this energy according to what we need to work on through different meridian lines. And if there's more energy going up this one, for example, we'll feel more of a flow if we get back in touch with our body. So this is this. And I've been shown also that the 12 cranial nerves as well are involved in this. I mean, there's so much I can talk about, but the 12 cranial nerves I've shown are representative of the 12 disciples. So the heart is the 13th chakra, if you like, which is the Christ center. The Christ then irradiates out then to these 12 disciples, You know, Todd, honestly, the 12 disciples are representative of the 12 stages of you know, the horoscope, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so what happens then is the meridians, which is a magnetic energy or a more subtle energy, right? So this is magnetic energy. As that starts to flow more, it will flow down these spinal nerves, these nerves here. Okay, so this is magnetic energy. This is electrical energy. Okay, and it's the electrons that are flowing through the nervous system that then feed the musculature of the body. Okay, so what actually happens is the energy from these will feed not only the musculature but organs as well. And that's why sometimes you can wake up with a pain in your stomach, and then the next day you can have a pain in your left arm, and then and it's almost like your soul saying, okay, work on this bit now, see what you need to do here, relax, let go, massage, deep breathing. There's all sorts of different techniques, but the pain will be traveling around your body because it's working in a specific set of sequences, really. I don't know whether that makes sense, but you know, it's so this is the nervous system. So we've come from the invisible now, and the meridians actually work through the connective tissue. I mean, I could go on about this for a long time, but the connective tissue connects the meridians with the nervous system through the connective tissue. And then when we're in full health, this is what we're supposed to look like here. And that would be a fully grounded, fully flowing, completely free human being, ready to express him or her soul's purpose and start to enjoy life, to start to have a purpose, to work with other people who are free flowing. And the thing about this is, when the energy is free flowing like this, we feel lighter. And I think really that's what enlightenment is, that the flow helps us to levitate, because levity is the opposite of gravity, as I mentioned the other night. And gravity takes us to the grave, and levity takes us back to heaven, you see. So it's a combination of gravity and levity, which is perfect balance. And then this is where we sort of got up to. I've not mentioned breathing, but that's important. I'm going to I'll look at breathing quickly in a second. But there's 14 major obstructive points in our connective tissue that cause lots of pain. And that's why lots of people have got obstructions when they're in fight and flight. What we tend to do is different people, depending on their soul's destination or purpose or abilities, they tense different areas of the body to protect themselves. So, for example, this is a very common one. People have very tight jaws. They get like lockjaw. They grind their teeth. And that's because when people are on the defensive, this is the most powerful muscular response. And it's basically part of our animal nature, where in a fight, we try and bite the throat out of our opponent. And because we're sort of, you know, and this is what happens is when people are on drinking drugs and they feel threatened, that's why they get so destructive and so violent. And you see like animal nature coming out, because what's actually happened is there's no regulation, you see. And that's why these things happen. So people get tense jaws, they'll get tense heads, they can get tension headache. Something that's really important is head, neck, and shoulder tension as well. This bit here as well. These bits in your pectoral muscles, your breastplate here, they become tense and they cause problems at the back here as well. So you have to sort of identify, when you get back in touch with your body, what are your particular myofascial trigger points that cause tension, because the tension will obstruct the free flow of your soul's energy through the meridians, and it will start to cause a lack of vitality then. And the thing about it is, Todd, is that in tension, one side of the tension will be a buildup of energy and the other one will be reduced energy, because the obstruction will be like a dam on one side and it will be no energy on the other side. And this is where I honestly believe, and it's only a thought and a feeling, that the high energy bit will cause the cells in that area to adapt, and they'll try and make themselves more strong then. And I think that that's what cancer is. I think it's high energy It's a frequency and a vibrational change where the cells in those areas are only trying to protect themselves, so they have to become more stronger, if you like, or more able than those other cells around them, you know. So I think that if we can release the energy and let the dam start to free flow again, I think that that will cause a reset and a rebalance and stuff. But these are just thoughts that come to me. So head, neck, and shoulder tension, pectoralis muscle tension, pain in our arms, you know, what's the thing? Carpal tunnel syndrome. Most of it, in my opinion, starts in the head, neck, and shoulders, right? We start to get joint pain because our muscles are tense, therefore our joints are actually rubbing to, there's too much frictional damage, then we get all sorts of osteoarthritis. Todd, we've not known this, and part of my sort of connection with the earth schools is to help children, right, to understand about yoga, to understand about feeling, you know, emotional tension, and to be able to do exercises to release it so they can get back then to the free flow and their natural intelligence. So there's all these things here. The other thing as well, by the way, is this bit here. There's a muscle here called the psoas muscle, you know, and the psoas muscle is supposed to be the soul's muscle. Go on, Todd. What?
What's it called?
I'll spell it because you just heard ass and you
Is
think
it
that
the
that's
sore? I thought you said it like the sore ass muscle, but it's
you
attached to the
see,
soul. No, no,
you know,
I'm not,
these increasing sort of things that you're getting, you're hearing things in the wrong way. It's psoas, PSOAS, psoas,
okay.
not sore ass, but you know, if that helps you
Psoas.
to remember that, then also all well and good.
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to say here is that if we're living in fear, we'll be living in fight and flight. We'll be living our life on the defensive. We'll be less than creative because all we'll be doing is ducking and diving and dodging and weaving just to get out of the situation. Our life will not be fulfilled because we'll just be on the defensive all the time. So simple things like hatha yoga, tai chi, gentle exercise, gentle movement, and massage, all those things can help our muscular system to realign with the nervous system, to realign with the meridian system, to realign with the universe itself. So we've got to do the work down here, because what that will do is, as we realign our musculature and our posture, more information will flow in from the universe, which will actually expand our consciousness, will give us more understanding of what this is all about. And just quickly, this is what I found out in my PhD, that the amount of breaths we take and the quality of the breathing itself changes the way the heart works. This is an indication of the beat to beat interval of the heart, and this represents our heart's flexibility and also our heart power. So at 12 breaths per minute, this hump is here. If we slow our breathing down to 9 breaths, heart power increases. But the miracle happens, as we were mentioning before, at 0.1 hertz, which is 6 breaths per minute. We actually get a collaboration between the masculine and the feminine parts of our nervous system. And that's like the brake and the gas pedal working harmoniously with one another, because up to that point, they're just basically knocking hell out of each other.
So,
and so in fight, sorry, go on.
6 breaths a minute for how long and how many times a day?
Right. Well, I suggest to people they do it to start off with 3 10-minute sessions a day. So the idea, and that people say, "Oh, I haven't got time for that." Well, if they haven't got time for that, you leave them alone until they get worse, and then you say, "You know that thing I showed you 3 years ago? Maybe you want to practice it now and see how you get on." So the whole thing is, I was shown all these tools for years and years and years, but my stinking thinking kept talking me out of it, Todd, because it was so simple. But you know, the answer that everybody needs is under their nose, and nose is KNOS. They've got to get rid of what they think they know, right, and clear their minds. So does that make sense?
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. There you go. So that's the breathing bit, but it can be enhanced by breathing in and out, a positive, caring, loving feeling. And there's loads of martial artists. The work of Mantak Chia and the fusion of the 5 elements. All these things are all saying the same thing. So I'll just go on for another 5 minutes or so and come back and see what happens. But generally speaking, in the Western world, they'll give you some more ideas in your brain, and they'll try and get you to do that to change the way your body's working. But in actual fact, things like cognitive behavioral therapy, they try and work that way around. But this approach is using breathing. We can change the way the heart works to change the way the head works. And you do that by breathing in 5 breaths per minute with a positive emotion. Let me just go through this bit now. I've shown people this bit, but there's the science of it all there, but I haven't got time for that now. And that's what we need, really. We need a bit of oomph, so that's on the defensive all the time, but we also need a bit of relaxation. So we do need some oomph for fight and flight. We need to be prepared just in case, but also we need to spend some time. And what we've done is, over eons of time, there's been too much of this, which is representative of the masculine and a patriarchal system, right? There's more of this coming back in now. This is the great mother, the sacred feminine. She's coming back now, right? In order to say, hey, big boy, you've had your time. I've got more ideas for you. It's not that you won't be useful. It's just that, will you listen to this? Because you've been destroying things, and look at the mess you've made. So listen to this, see what you think, take the action, and the world will be a better place. Hallelujah. I'll just shut up in a second, but this is one of my favorite ones, is which way do you see her going, clockwise or anti-clockwise?
Anti,
okay.
Oh no, I'm
and
sorry.
There'll be lots of, and well, some people will be saying she's changing. This is really important, this. Okay. If you see her going clockwise, it means that the photons of light are coming into your eyes. So the photons are changing. They're hitting your optic nerve at the back of your retina, and it's changing it now to electrical signal. The electrical signal's going down a big wire called your optic nerve, and it's going to the back of your head. Now, depending on whether it goes now to your right brain or your left brain, will determine the direction that you see her going in. And most people, 2/3 of the population, will see her going clockwise, and 1/3 will see her going anti-clockwise. And I say to people, well, how can that happen? We're all watching it at the same time, and yet different people are seeing her going in a different direction. And that's because, Todd, different people process information in different ways. And this is how we see them.
Oh my God, I just saw her shift. Did you
Okay.
do that?
No, I'm not touching it, mate. And so what's actually happening is it's like a pantomime. People
How
will
the
say,
hell? Wait a minute.
well, I'm going to explain it now. So what's actually happening is she's not changing. It's the way that you're processing the visual information that's changing. So you'll be flipping from the right side of your brain to the left side of your brain. Ideally, and you can use this, right? Ideally, you need to see her going one direction to the other. So she goes one way and then she goes the other way. That's how you balance your hemispheres out. And you do it, Todd, by breathing at 6 breaths per minute with a positive emotion. That brings a balance into your head then, right? And that's why everything starts to realign then, just through breathing. And let me just say this. Buddha was reputedly asked, hey, Bud, is there a fast track to getting realigned? And Buddha just said, yes, Sonny, just become aware of your breathing. Simple as that, Todd. Now, the next bit you'll like, mate. Keep your eye on the middle one.
Oh my God, this is crazy.
And what you should do is keep your head straight, but just tip your eyes to the right-hand side, and you should see her going anti-clockwise. And go to the left-hand side, and she should be going clockwise. And when you come back to the middle, you should see the 3 of them all going in the same direction if you're getting balanced.
Anti-clockwise, too.
Oh, yeah. So this is it, mate. Honestly, these are simple techniques, and this is a well-known psychiatric technique. It's called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
You always use this type of silhouette character for this presentation.
Yeah. Did you want a naked one? Did you like a proper sort of skin type?
This one's got pretty clear definition.
Todd, stop it. I'm trying to get a serious message across here. So you can use this. You can download the single one from Wiki. You know, if you put in the woman that turns both ways every now and then when you're looking at her, you can get the GIF file. Make sure you do an antivirus check on it though when you're bringing it down.
So is it actually a good tool to study this, spend time with?
Yeah, this one is, Todd. Because you can sit there, you can, because I'll lead people through like a meditation. And what you do is you basically allow your eyes to relax and go sort of all like sink into your head. And then just allow your nose to relax. Allow your jaw to relax. Just let your shoulders drop. And just gently, just gaze at her ankles. Just allow your breath to come in nice and slowly all the way in. And all the way out. And as you start to sink and become more relaxed, what should happen is she should start to change more often then, from one way to the next. And if that's not working, just gently gaze up and down her body and you should start to see her change. And you can use this as a meditation, but what you're actually doing is it's a dynamic way to resynchronize the hemispheres of your brain. So the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, the east and the west, the oriental and the occidental start working in harmony with one another. Right, I'm nearly done now, but just to say, sometimes we can see the world, you know, and it can look cruel, but when we can see both sides of it, you know, and that's when our hemispheres are working. So this was a bloke who knew how to balance when his head was battered, because he was a left brain scientist. When his head was battered, he used to get on his bike, go down, get in his boat, and just let his soft out, basically. And that used to resynchronize him, and then new inspiration and ideas would come in. Right, Todd, I don't know whether you've seen this, but I might as well, while I'm here, show the audience this. Just say what you see quickly. Todd, we know what you're going to say.
I see a couple in the bottle in copulation.
Okay. So do you mean that it's a couple who obviously love each other? They've got no clothes on and they're in a bottle. What's in the bottle itself? What's in the bottle? A cork.
A cork and a message.
Okay. Okay, a message. Okay, message in a bottle. Is the bottle on anything? I'm sorry to lead you through this, but
it's on like a pond. It's rippling water.
It is, and there's a bit of paper turned up. Yeah. Well, this is to show you how our unconscious mind influences our perception. This is really important, this, because it's about subliminal perceptions and being duped. Okay. What actually happens is, Todd, that children can't see the naked couple. What children see, right, is they see 9 dolphins. Todd, I'm going to have to point this out to you, right? It just gives a clear indication of where your mind is set. Here's the first tail of the dolphin. Look, one dolphin. There's one dolphin. There's another. There's another. There's another. There's another. There's another. There's 9 dolphins there.
I must be a sinner. I must be a sinner.
Yeah, you are, mate. You are. Well, you're getting better every day.
I do see. There are some. I see a couple like dragons too.
Yeah, but I see what you mean. But can I just say, this is just an indication of how what's going on below the level of our consciousness affects the way that we see the world.
That's wild, man. That's wild.
It is. And I normally do this, you know, to nurses and stuff. There's a big load of female nurses. And I'll say, and is there anybody else now that have pointed it out who can't see any dolphins? And when they put the hand up, I say, give us your phone number. And I normally get escorted from the building, you know. Anyway, this is it more than anything else is. This is the crux of the whole I am approach, is just become aware of your breathing. And what actually happens is it changes your ECG pattern. It goes from a frantic state like this, just changing your breathing, and it goes into a coherent pattern like this. And when you're in a coherent pattern like that, your brain waves change. and I'll come out of that now. So that's basically what we've covered. In the next 5 sessions, what I'm going to be looking at is things like nutrigenomics, how what we eat affects the way that our nervous system draws energy from our stomach and actually creates our bodies. You know, we'll be looking at nutrigenomics. We'll be looking at the difference between DNA, right, and epigenetics as well. So we'll be looking at the DNA, and we look at the way DNA expresses itself, because we're all human beings, and therefore we have the same primary template underneath everything. It's really the epigenetics that determines how our DNA expresses itself. So we'll be looking at that. I'll also be looking at the 12 spiritual principles that drive the universe as well, and try and relate those as well to how our minds work. You know, so there's lots of good stuff coming up. And I am in the process of trying to put this into some sort of modular package, you know, that I'll eventually put up online or something like that, you know. But I'm busy, Todd, like you know. I'm really busy, and I've hardly got any time to do the stuff that I really want to do. But I'm working towards it, mate.
Man, I can relate to that. Man, this is amazing stuff. It's amazing. So I'm really privileged to be, part of the platform to see it. And I'm anxious to see where it's going to go, because some of these words and these subjects that you're bringing up, I don't even know what the hell they are. You know, I've never heard of them. So this is interesting. So would you say that, like, it's a blend of everything that you've, researched and studied academically, both, formally and not?
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration now. I mean, I said to you the other evening, I don't so much go looking in books now for information. I sort of get inspired with stuff, right? And then when I read something, it's more for confirmation than anything else, you know.
Yeah.
And I try and listen. I'm like you. I'll look everywhere and listen, because sometimes things jump out at me to say, okay, pay attention to this now and study it a bit deeper. So I honestly believe that my soul is helping me to navigate through this stuff now. And I don't get into the religious, always a religious nutter, because I know that I'm not, because this is about energy. This is about Tesla stuff. It's all to do with what Tesla said. It's Einsteinian. It's what Jung said. It's what Freud said. All these things are coming into this subtle energy medicine now. And some people call it vibrational medicine. Some people call it integrative medicine. Call it what you like. It's all about the individual getting back in touch with themselves and being guided from their own withinness, really. And Todd, more than anything else, it's about personal responsibility. Yeah. Nobody did this to us without our permission at some level.
Yeah.
You know, and that's hard. That's when people are going through real shit. That's really hard. So you've got to really try and encourage those people who are fearful, but also to discover a chink in people who think that they know what's going on, because that's where I was for years. Somebody had to basically slap me down and say to me, all this knowledge you've got isn't worth a carrot, because you've been trying to kill yourself for years. And I thought, that's true then.
Well, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're here with us. And for those of you who don't know, he's on at this time every 2 weeks on the network. And we are going to be beginning this month, November. Instead of having these shows coming out on social media, we're going to have one free show a month for every program. So our spotlight shows will be on the network. Anybody can access it, even if you're not a subscriber, and you'll be able to watch basically 1 in 4 shows of all the different programs. And we will be putting excerpts out, and we will be having that app come out very soon. We're getting some systems in place this week. We just made a big step. And once we have those systems in place and we get the existing producers on board over the next 10 days or so, taking over kind of the duties I've been doing, then we're going to invite the waiting list that we have. So we're looking forward to launching a lot of new programs and encourage people to come explore themselves and be part of some thing that we have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
Just going to make it what it is. But we really appreciate Dr. Joe's contribution. I can't say that enough. I would have to say, just based on longevity, volume, um, the versatility, I guess, you would say uh, that he offers in his expressions, that he's one of the primary producers or primary energies in Soulology. And I think everybody is in Soulology. That's how I feel about it. But I mean, just in terms of being hands-on and being involved. So really happy he's coming to Houston.
Can I just say this before we go, Todd? I only ever still feel like I'm just scratching the surface of this stuff. You know what I mean? People say to me, "You're so clever at this." I don't feel like that. I feel like that, we're so far from realizing our true potential.
Yeah.
I feel that deep with it. But more than anything else is this is how you do it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You stick your hands on your heart like that. You try and just allow your head to relax, and you just breathe this feeling in. But the most important thing is, and this is the hard part, because it's almost like a step of humility, this. You say to your heart of hearts, you say, look, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, right? I have a feeling that what that fellow was saying might work for me, so I'm going to give it a try. So if there's anybody in there, or there's an intelligence in there, right, can you please either give me a sign or give me some sort of inspiration, and I'm going to try and listen to how you guide me through the rest of my life. And Todd, that's what I did, and it's changed my life totally. And it's open to everybody, but you've almost got to get to a state of desperation where you tap on your heart and say, is there anybody in there? And you might get the shock of your life if you get a voice that says yes, and we've been waiting for you to tap for a long time now. Sorry, mate.
I love it. Thanks, Dr. Joe.
Pleasure, mate, and thanks very much for doing that for me.
Right
And
on,
I'll
brother.
speak to you soon.